Welcome back to TV5 News at 9, and it's time now for our favorite segment, Education Matters. We are here with Dr. Craig Douglas. Thank you so much, Dr. Douglas, for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, tell us about this. Today we're talking about a Michigan State University study that actually researched how students are learning during the pandemic. So tell us a little bit about this study, Doctor.
Yeah, so I'm a graduate of Michigan State, so I can stay connected to their College of Education. And recently, their researchers published a survey that they did starting this fall. And the survey tried to answer the basic question, how are students learning during the pandemic? What they did is they analyzed district reports that are submitted to the intermediate school districts and then to the Michigan Department of Education each month. And the researchers there look for ways schools have adjusted their instructional methods and how these shifts in instruction have impacted groups of young learners. It's a very comprehensive study, and I want to recommend it for viewers to look at it in its entirety. But there are three key findings that I want to tease out for this segment. First, the study clearly showed that fewer students are actually choosing in-person learning when they're given a choice. I'm going to read this quote from the study's summary. Although many districts are providing the opportunity for students to learn in person, far fewer students are actually choosing to learn in person. This may be viewed as an expression of families' preferences. Many families who have the opportunity to send their child to school in person are not choosing to do so. Now, I want to remind viewers this is a statewide survey, so there's going to be variations by region, but that's a pretty profound learning from the initial results of these reports.
And Dr. Douglas, is that for any age group? Are you finding that, or are there certain ages that prefer in person?
Yeah, this was kind of across the board, Colette, which surprised me.
Yes.
My personal theory is probably safety was a hyper concern early in the fall when the reports were first being submitted. And I know from social media there were many parents really kind of hemming and hawing, should we send our child to school? Is it safe? We're finding this pretty safe actually for in-person learning. So this may actually be adjusted as the school year continues. Second finding, very profound, and that is simply that geography matters in the state of Michigan. So basically they found there were two large regions in the state that were really in-person deficit. They were almost totally online, and that was Detroit and Lansing. And in general, I'm going to quote, Black and low-income students and students located in urban areas are more likely to be enrolled in districts that did not offer the opportunity to learn in person. Now, a lot of possible theories for this. It may have been the overarching concern for student safety, for staff safety. As we've learned, this virus can be transmitted by people that don't have symptoms. So there were a lot of err on the side of caution decisions made in the urban areas. But that is something to really keep an eye on, isn't it, as the school year continues. The third overall learning that I'd like to share today is that hybrid learning, where there's part of the week in person and part of the week online, is really quite similar from one district to another. But the online learning piece really varies. So here's what this means. If a district was hybrid, on average, they offered in-person instruction either 2 or 3 days a week. That model was pitched early in the summer by some of the districts in the Detroit area, and I think other districts looked at that and said that really makes sense. So that was embraced. But the online piece really varied, and it varied by whether or not there was live instruction to support the online learning. I'll cite just one example, and that is about a third to a half of the online learning was live or is synchronous. So online learning might not be supported by live instruction. Also, that the fully remote learning, where there's interfacing with the teachers and students, is far less likely than before the pandemic, and that may impact the student learning that results. And, my personal experience has been in education as a teacher and then an administrator, so I understand the value of the teacher in live real time rather than accessing 24/7 packages of software or subject-related material. So rather than me continue on to ramble, let's just kind of wrap up by saying, what does all this mean? Well, it remains to be seen as these options frequently shift. We know that right now our high schools are shut down in the state of Michigan because of the spike in the virus. So as schools shift from online to hybrid or in person, we just need to monitor and pay attention. We need to continue to be informed and continue to be positive in supporting the educators' efforts to provide the best instruction during this pandemic. I'm going to guess Michigan State will continue to monitor this. They may look at student achievement as some testing is scheduled in the spring to see how students during the pandemic compared to students before the pandemic. Many of us in education fear that there's going to be a dip in the results, but that remains to be seen as time moves on. I want to assure you I'll keep an eye out for future reports on this. It's fascinating.
It sure is. Thank you for that information. We definitely want to keep that in mind as well. Thank you for bringing that to us and letting us know about that study. And so good that you're doing well, and it's good to see you again, Dr. Douglas.
Thank you so much, Colette. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
You as well. And for more information about today's topic, check out the school source page on WNEM.com.